So yeah, they withdraw deposits and put them into loyal state banks, which are nicknamed pet banks, right? Cool. And then what do these pet banks start doing, and where's the next step to the story? Go ahead, Nolan.
They start loaning money out, and then the economy starts to grow at like an alarming rate. So he tries to slow it down, but he slows it down too much.
Right. How's he going to slow it down? You remember? Someone help out? What was the policy, the specific policy to slow it down? Yeah, he wanted to institute hard money. That's right. We didn't use the phrase hard money versus soft money, but yeah, he wants to institute a hard money policy. Hard money meaning that land in the West can only be bought with hard money. Hard money is, right, specie, which is gold and silver coinage. Okay, so basically the goal is this: is the reason why people were borrowing so much money in the West was to buy land. All right, they were borrowing paper, soft money, paper banknotes. Okay, banks were giving them essentially banknotes or IOU kind of things that could be exchanged for other products, right? In this case, for land. If you ever looked at our money's not like, it's not really money, right? It's, if you look at the money of the United States, the currency of the United States, you'll notice that every currency of the United States on it says Federal Reserve Note, all right? Our currency are banknotes. In this case, they're Federal Reserve notes, right? They're a note from the Federal Reserve, right? They don't have any, what's the phrase for this? They're not intrinsically valuable, okay? You with me? Have you ever noticed that a $100 bill and a $1 bill are exactly the same size, exactly the same material, right? They're not intrinsically or inherently valuable. The only reason why they have value is because we say they have value. The bank says it has value. It's a note from the bank saying this is $1 and this is 100. You follow? Tangible, hard money, right? Its value is inherently in its value. You with me? You know how I know that I have not more gold is it doesn't say that this is 5 gold on the thing. It's literally 5 ounces of gold, or 10 ounces of gold. You follow? It has intrinsic value in and of itself. Am I making sense? That's what Jackson wants to shift away from this loose money policy, a loose money policy that can be manipulated by the wealthy who control the banks, to a hard money policy that's tangible. There's no manipulation of that. It is what it is. It is gold. It is silver. You follow? What he doesn't see is a negative impact of that. The negative impact of that is not only the contraction of the economy, which Nolan said, which is great. The other negative impact of that is who needs loose money? Who needs access to these loans and this loose money? Westerners do. And what other kind of socioeconomic people?
The poor.
The poor. So anyway, yeah, he wants to go to hard money, and he's going to issue the specie circular, but that's going to contract the amount of money in circulation. It's going to pull out paper money and squeeze the amount of money in circulation, and as Owen was saying, it's going to put us down the backside, and the economy is going to tank. The good thing for Jackson is he gets to leave and Van Buren comes in, and Van Buren gets stuck with the mess, right? Panic of 1837. Side notes we said on Jackson, right? Make sure the word veto is somewhere in your notes, right? Not just the veto of the bank, but just the generic idea that Jackson was a veto-er, right? Vetoing more legislation than the previous 6 presidents combined, I think. Did we say that the other day? He was a big user of the veto, okay? One of the things I said that happened in the age of Jackson was that the power of the presidency increased because of Andrew Jackson, okay? It's about using the veto to get what you want, to dictate policy, to squash any policy you don't like and force them to put what you want in. Destroy the bank, destroy internal improvements. His critics are going to look at the use of the veto as an abuse of power, right? A president acting like a king, all right? And like we said the other day, and I know this was tail end the other day, but we've got the shredded Constitution of the United States here. There's another shredded piece of paper here that says internal improvements and U.S. Bank, right? His things he opposes. The book down here, tossed aside with some papers ripped out of it, says Judiciary of the United States, right? John Marshall has made his decision, now let him enforce it. Toss it aside. Acting like a king. Which then brings us up to the election of 36, right? The election of 36. So here's the election of 36, and Martin Van Buren wins the election of 36, right? Notice he runs against multiple Whigs in 36. Check this out, right? Did we show you this the other day? Here's Harrison running as a Whig. Harrison loses to Van Buren the first time, and then beats him a second time in 40. Comeback, okay? But if I go back to 32, notice how Clay is labeled here in 32. What is Clay in 32? National Republican. By the time I get to 36, right, the Harrison and the other guys are Whigs, right? So this joke about Jackson being king catches on after the election of 32. And now we get the Whig Party, and it's the same party. It's the National Republican Party, all right? We talked the other day about this map. What's interesting about this map? Give me some stuff on this map that we've already learned. Some great stuff on this map that kind of reviews some stuff we've already learned.
South Carolina doesn't like Jackson.
Yeah, South Carolina doesn't like Jackson. It doesn't vote for Jackson. It's certainly not going to vote for the Whig or the National Republican Clay. So it votes for this random independent Democrat, right? Floyd is the one they vote their electoral votes for. Floyd gets these electoral votes because people met in Columbia and were mad over the tariff crisis, so they decided to throw all their electoral votes to some random Democrat. Okay? Not by popular vote. And actually, if we fast forward to 36, because we know South Carolina is a very forward-thinking state. Just joking. South Carolina, right here. Independent Democrat again, instead of voting for Van Buren. And again, no popular vote for that guy. So there's no popular election of electors in South Carolina. But what we do know is look at the size of the popular vote in 36, right? Whatever that is, 1.3-ish, 4 million or so votes. That's more votes than we saw in 32. So what we can do is make the assumption that between 32 and 36, states gave more whites the right to vote, and more states jumped on board with popular election of electors. New Hampshire voted for Jackson. Mississippi voted for Jackson. Maine voted for Jackson. New York voted for Jackson. Louisiana voted for Jackson. All right? What this map shows us is national appeal. This shows cross-sectional support. All right? If we didn't say this the other day, we really need to know that the Democratic Party of this era is the first national political party, okay, with cross-sectional national support. You remember the old Democratic Republicans of the era of good feelings? They were a national party too, but that's cheating, because there's no other party. But in a two-party system, this is the first time that one of the political parties has this kind of cross-sectional support. If you go back and look at any of Jefferson's wins, he didn't win anything in New England, okay? And Adams didn't win anything in the South and the West, except for a little bit of coastal parts of where the rich people were. This idea of a cross-sectional national political party, this is exactly what Van Buren had envisioned, isn't it? Van Buren wanted a national Democratic Party. He's the nuts and bolts of this. He's the guy that figures out the organization to create national politics. Cool? There's one other democratization thing on here, which is, look at Wirt, is the anti-Masonic kid. What does that show us about democratization?
Rise of third parties.
Yeah, rise of third parties, all right? Absolutely. Rise of third parties. Choices are up. Right? Let's check out this election of 18. I love this one. So we looked at 36. Right? And Van Buren even has cross-sectional support. Right? Still Maine and New Hampshire. He wins Connecticut and Rhode Island. Right? Again, which is pretty stunning. But if I show you the election of 40, right, which is our log cabin and hard cider campaign, check out this one. This is Harrison's win in 40. This is good stuff. But the other thing I want you to notice is Harrison wins. Harrison's a Whig. And where's Harrison getting his votes? He's getting them all over, right? I mean, more in the North, I would agree with that. But he also wins North Carolina, Georgia, Mississippi, Louisiana, Tennessee. What this shows is the Whigs are now another national political party. So the two political parties of the age of Jackson are developing national political kind of support, cross-sectional support. Which means that both of the parties, here's the negative of this, both of the parties in the age of Jackson have to, at all costs, avoid what issue? Slavery. They don't want to talk about slavery. Somebody brings up slavery, they're like, don't want to talk about it. Okay? Somebody tell me about the gag rule. What's the gag rule? Proposed by Jackson and Van Buren. What's the gag rule? Go ahead, look for it, so you're not the one that gets called on and has no idea what you're talking about. What's the gag rule? Candace, what you got? Yeah, it's an abolitionist, anti-slavery folk were beginning to petition Congress. They would send petitions to Congress to get them to talk about slavery. And what the gag rule said was that any petition arrived in Congress about slavery was automatically tabled. What does tabled mean? What's that?
Ignored.
Well, kind of, put aside. Table is like in kind of basic Robert's rules and stuff. If you table something, it means you're going to put it aside to talk about it later. Like, and when would they talk about it later? Like never. All right? Because again, neither of the parties wanted to talk about slavery. Like, la, 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 la. Right? They don't want to talk about it at all because as soon as they do, they alienate the other region of the country. Both parties are complicit in this ignoring of slavery. The Whigs can't sit there and talk about slavery. The Whigs were more popular in the North, and a lot of them were abolitionists. But as a national party, they don't want to talk about slavery because then they won't win these votes down here in Mississippi and Louisiana. And vice versa for the Democrats. Jackson doesn't run around championing that he's a slave owner. Not only would that alienate maybe the common man in the South, but it's going to alienate people in New Hampshire. So they avoid it. So this is an incredibly unfortunate situation for the length of slavery in American history. Right? The desired national parties and therefore trying to avoid any divisiveness means that they're not going to talk about it. Right? We've seen this before. Remember, Jefferson wanted a provision in the Declaration of Independence that alluded to slavery being a bad thing. And the South was ready to walk out of Second Continental Congress if that wasn't removed. Set that aside. Got to keep the country together. Let's not talk about slavery. Missouri Compromise, set that aside. Let's make a deal so we don't have to face the real issue. Are you with me? That's when we get to this stuff that abolitionist group is going to be so crucial. Enough's enough. We've got to talk about this stuff. But the political ear for it is very silent. They don't want to hear it because they're trying to create cross-sectional support. One of these parties is going to collapse because of this. The Whigs are going to collapse under their ignoring of slavery. All right? Too many Northern Whigs want to talk about slavery, and the party simply can't exist as the national vision is to ignore the issue. Does that make sense? The Democrats can get away with ignoring it, because where's their base? In the South. The more slavery is ignored, the more their sons get to have slaves. All right? Does that make sense? All right, awesome. So last but not least, the election of 1840, of course, is the Log Cabin and Hard Cider campaign. The election of 1840 is the Tippecanoe and Tyler II campaign. By 1840, look at the size of the popular vote. We have universal white male suffrage hitting its peak. We have more and more states doing direct election of electors. So the vote of the people matters, and you get these campaigns like Log Cabin, Hard Cider. You get Tippecanoe and Tyler II. Cool. We talked about that earlier. That's what I need you to have back there or down there at the bottom with the election of 1840. With Van Buren, just make sure two big things Van Buren did, right, that are sort of Jackson's fault: Trail of Tears and the Panic of 1837. Martin Van Ruin. And I believe the other day we talked about maybe Van Buren's greatest accomplishment is the independent treasury. Yeah, I think, again, mixing things up in class is a great idea so that they don't get too bored with what's going on. They remain engaged. And then enthusiasm. The more enthusiastic you are about what you do, I think you'll have more fun and the kids will be more engaged in what you're doing.